Today is Thursday, July 3rd. We'll tell you about the verdict in the Sean Diddy Combs case and what's next for the former music mogul. Also, one of America's top trading partners has made a deal with the Trump administration, and the president's policy bill is facing new roadblocks. Plus, we're talking about all things holiday travel, like the best times to head out ahead of the 4th of July. What makes someone cool, at least according to a new study, and a dose of nostalgia for 80s and 90s kids with a grown-up spin. Those stories and even more news to know next. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. The nearly 2-month trial against Sean Diddy Combs has ended with a split decision. A jury found him guilty of transporting people for prostitution, but acquitted him on the more serious charges of sex trafficking and racketeering. Combs had faced a possible life sentence, and he still potentially faces as much as 20 years in prison. But legal experts say it's very unlikely he'll be sentenced to the maximum. In fact, they say it's more likely to be months in prison, not years, partly because he's already been in custody since his arrest last year. And now he's going to stay in jail until his sentencing hearing that is still not scheduled. As we've told you, the government's case accused Combs of years of physical and emotional abuse. Plus, there were allegations of kidnapping, drugging, and coercing people into sexual activities. Combs pleaded not guilty, even though his legal team admitted he had been violent with women, and the jury saw videos to prove that point. The thing is, the team also argued the charges were overreaching. Since the verdict came out, some organizations that advocate for women's rights have criticized it, saying it proves it's still common for the culture to not believe women and other victims of sexual assault. Either way, Combs' troubles are not over. Besides the prison time he faces for the prostitution conviction, he's also facing civil lawsuits. So, to be continued. One day ahead of President Trump's deadline for his massive policy bill, there's been a holdup. Remember, the Senate passed an updated version of the tax and spending bill already, then sent it back to the House to approve changes and get it to the president's desk by his deadline, the 4th of July. But House GOP leaders ended up delaying a key vote when they realized they did not have enough support. All Democrats are expected to vote against it, which means the bill can only afford to lose 3 Republican votes. Well, yesterday, at least 5 Republicans said they could not support it. Some want deeper spending reductions since they're concerned about the national debt. Others are worried about cuts to the social safety net. Trump apparently tried to downplay those concerns, though, when he met with some of the GOP holdouts yesterday. It's not clear if those meetings made a big difference. But House Speaker Mike Johnson says he's still confident the bill will be passed, and as of early this morning, many members of Congress are still at the Capitol negotiating. The U.S. has made another trade deal, this time with Vietnam. President Trump announced the U.S. will charge 20% tariffs on Vietnamese imports. Without a deal, though, they would have faced a 46% tariff. So Vietnam got a little relief. And in return, it agreed to charge no tariffs on American products. It's a big deal since Vietnam has become a major manufacturing hub for brands like Nike, Apple, Gap, and Lululemon. The Trump family has recently announced development projects in Vietnam, too. Meanwhile, dozens of other countries are still scrambling to make their own trade deals with the U.S. before the tariffs that President Trump calls reciprocal take effect next week. Besides Vietnam, Britain is the only country so far that's announced an official deal, though the U.S. has also decided to temporarily lower tariffs with China. The world is still trying to figure out what kind of impact the U.S. made when it attacked Iranian nuclear facilities. And this week, the U.S. Pentagon put out its own assessment, saying the airstrike set Iran's nuclear program back by up to 2 years. So not exactly obliterated, like President Trump had been saying, but also more of a setback than the initial assessment said about Iran being able to bring the program back online just within months. It's tough to know one way or another, in part because Iran isn't allowing any outside independent body into the country to verify. Just this week, Iran formally suspended its cooperation with the United Nations nuclear watchdog. That leaves the UN pretty much blind to any new nuclear work Iran is able to complete. Inspectors also won't be able to locate Iran's large stockpile of enriched uranium. And the move is likely to complicate any nuclear talks between Iran and the U.S. Iran has left the door open for cooperation to continue one day, but only when various conditions are met. For example, guarantees for the safety of Iranian nuclear sites and scientists. It's not clear if the UN will agree to any of the terms, but for now, things are at least quiet since a ceasefire between Iran and Israel is still in effect. An app that lets Americans stand up to immigration officials has gone viral. It's called IceBlock. It lets users anonymously report sightings of immigration and customs enforcement officials, what kind of clothes they're wearing, what cars they're driving, and more. And it lets people see reports other users have made within a 5-mile radius. IceBlock's creator says he wanted to do something to fight back against President Trump's immigration crackdown. He even said it seemed reminiscent of Nazi Germany. CNN was first to report about all of this, but the White House was quick to criticize that report, saying it endangered the lives of officers. And Attorney General Pam Bondi warned the app's developer to watch out. Well, after the Trump administration's response, IceBlock exploded in popularity. At one point, it was at the top of Apple's App Store. It has dropped a bit as of early this morning. It's now number 3 behind Love Island USA and ChatGPT. More news still coming up, but first, thanks to our sponsor, Hiya Health. One of the easiest and most consistent parts of my kiddo's morning routine is taking his Hiya Children's Vitamin. He loves the feeling of getting vitamins like mommy every morning, and he loves the taste too. I honestly thought the novelty of it would wear off eventually, but he's been taking these for 2 years now, and he's still loving and benefiting from both the children's vitamins and the probiotics. And I love that Hiya makes a super-powered chewable vitamin that is supporting his immune system, energy, brain function, teeth and bones, and more. And that, unlike many other children's vitamins, there's no sugar and no gummy junk. And by the way, if you're tired of battling with your kids to eat their greens, Hiya now has Kids Daily Greens Plus Superfoods, a chocolate-flavored greens powder designed specifically for kids, packed with 55 whole food ingredients to support brain power, development, and digestion. Just scoop, shake, and sip with milk or any non-dairy beverage for a delicious and nutritious boost your kids will actually enjoy. We've worked out a special deal with Hiya for their best-selling children's vitamin. Receive 50% off your first order. To claim this deal, you must go to hiyahealth.com/newsworthy. This deal is not available on their regular website. So go to hiyahealth.com/newsworthy and get your kids the full body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults. Now back to the news. Travel over this 4th of July holiday weekend is expected to break records. AAA says more than 72 million Americans will travel at least 50 miles from home. Of course, with 4th of July being in the summer, it's one of the most popular times to get away every year. But this is the first time in more than a decade that the 4th of July falls on a Friday, and summer gas prices are at their lowest since 2021. So even more people are taking advantage of the long weekend than usual. Allstate says traffic is expected to peak today, with road trips forecast to spike over 50% above the usual average. So if you're one of the millions of people driving today or anytime this weekend, transportation data provider INRIX says the best times to travel are in the morning or after 7 p.m. At the airports, TSA says it's preparing to screen nearly 19 million travelers this weekend. So if you're traveling by plane, you're also asked to leave yourself more time than usual. In case you're wondering, booking data shows this year's top 4th of July destinations include Orlando, Seattle, New York City, Denver, and Miami. CBS's parent company has decided to settle with President Trump. The president has been suing Paramount over an interview last fall on 60 Minutes with then Vice President Kamala Harris. Trump's legal team had argued CBS was guilty of election interference over its decision to edit Harris's answer to a question about the Israel-Hamas conflict. At first, CBS made the case that editing an interview for time is just standard practice, not deceptive, and that in this case, the editing was up to its journalistic standards. Well, this week, the legal battle ended when Paramount agreed to a $16 million settlement. CBS's CEO told shareholders yesterday the company just wants to move on and avoid a lengthy and costly legal battle. And Trump's lawyers say it's a win for the American people, since their client is, as they put it, holding the fake news media accountable. But outside legal experts see it differently, saying CBS's editorial decisions are protected by the First Amendment. Either way, this is just the latest example of major media outlets deferring to the president. The parent company of ABC promised to pay Trump's presidential foundation $15 million over George Stephanopoulos, saying the president was found liable for rape instead of sexual assault. Meta paid $25 million to resolve a lawsuit from Trump over being removed from Facebook. And the battle doesn't end here. In recent days, President Trump has also threatened to sue CNN and the New York Times over some of their reporting. There's a new warning out about turkey bacon sold all over the U.S. Oscar Mayer's fully cooked turkey bacon products are now being recalled because they could be contaminated with listeria that can cause food poisoning. The problem was uncovered during the company's own lab testing, so it's not clear if anyone has actually gotten sick. But many people likely still have some at home since the use-by dates run from July 18th to August 2nd. Of course, customers are asked to throw the packages away or return them to wherever they shopped, We have more information posted on today's episode notes. It looks like Chuck E. Cheese is all grown up. This week, the arcade chain announced a new spin-off for adults called Chuck's Arcade. And it sounds pretty similar to the kids' version. For example, it will have some nostalgic games like Donkey Kong and Mortal Kombat, and it will have some newer ones like Halo and Connect 4 hoops. There will also be prizes to win and some old-school merch. Plus, each arcade is overseen by one of the chain's iconic animatronic characters, including Chuck E. Cheese himself. 9 locations are open so far at malls across the U.S., and more are coming soon. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Thing to Know Thursday. But first, this episode is sponsored by Trade Coffee. For me, coffee is no longer just a drink or even a habit. It's a ritual, something that helps me take a breath in the mornings and set the right tone and get the right mindset for my day. It's a little something that feels just for me. And I love that Trade makes it even more special and delicious. In fact, Trade's experts have taste-tested thousands of coffees to curate over 450 amazing roasts. And I appreciate that I can tell them as much or as little as I want about the specifics of what I like, and either way, they'll match me with a perfect coffee. And they'll do the same for you. Plus, Trade's prices are on par with grocery store brands, so you're getting this amazing quality and supporting local roasters, and yet you're not paying extra for it. Even my husband has become a coffee fan when he didn't used to be. And right now, Trade is exclusively offering our listeners 50% off your 1-month trial. That's half off at drinktrade.com/newsworthy. That's drinktrade, TRADE.com/newsworthy for 50% off your 1-month trial. drinktrade.com/newsworthy. Now back to Thing to Know Thursday. Have you ever wondered why some people are considered cool by pretty much everyone? Think James Bond, perhaps, whose coolness spans across time, cultures, even continents. Well, now researchers think they've gotten to the bottom of it. They conducted experiments on thousands of people all around the world. Besides being from 13 different countries, participants had different ages, income levels, educational backgrounds, and genders. They were all asked to think of people who were cool or not cool, good or not good, and then rate those people based on personalities and values. And what researchers found was 6 specific traits that so-called cool people had in common. They were all at least perceived as being extroverted, hedonistic, meaning they chase what feels good, often excessively, powerful, adventurous, open, and autonomous, meaning they don't wait for permission before acting. But is coolness really something to strive for? One of the lead researchers says yes, that, quote, society needs cool people because they challenge norms, inspire change, and advance culture. But other psychologists say not so fast, that being cool or popular isn't really what contributes to long-term success, and that's more about being well-liked. Or as the chief of psychology at the American Psychological Association put it, quote, even the most uncool kid will probably fare well if they have at least one close friend. Thank you so much for listening. A quick note, there will not be a new episode out tomorrow as our team celebrates the 4th of July holiday, but we will be back in your feed this weekend with our special edition Saturday episode. It's a fun take on American history and patriotism, and we're going over some basic knowledge about America. America's government teacher, Sharon McMahon, joins me for this one, so be sure to tune in on Saturday. For now, thanks again for listening, and have a great 4th of July weekend.